And we're very sorry Mrs. Roje couldn't be here today, but she just had a baby. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a body of students inflicted with a good dose of senioritis must be in want of their diplomas. We spent 4 long years at Medway High School, and today, all of our hard work is at an end. Today, we move the tassels of our graduation caps from the right to the left and begin the rest of our lives. No more tests, no more studying, no more papers. Finally, we can all sit back and relax. And so is my train of thought until very recently, when I realized I still had a speech to write. I was so exhilarated to be graduating that I mentally suppressed the reality that my high school experience was not yet finished. The one thing standing in my way of graduating, the one thing that is also standing between you from all graduating right now, is this speech. So, pained by the demise of my blissful procrastination, I set to work on writing. Now, most papers you write in high school are very structured. Any room for creativity must first be approved by the fickle and demanding overarching theme of the paper, the argument one strives to make, the purpose for writing. However, for this speech, I was given free rein. Now, I know about 75% of the class must now believe they're about to hear a lecture on my profound love of the television program Gilmore Girls and its importance to American culture. And though while this idea was tempting, I scratched it off the drawing boards early on. So, not knowing how to begin, I decided to tackle this speech like I would any school paper. I began conducting research. But, unfortunately, there is no Wikipedia page for high school commencement addresses. Rather, I conducted my search on MedwayCable.com by watching the past speakers of Medway address their classmates. And while all these speeches were unique, and they all had certain elements in common, they were all not quite helpful to me. I started looking at the things that were in common. They all had personal anecdotes, and they all featured inspirational quotes, but most importantly, they all spoke of how our time at Medway High School has prepared us for the future. Now this bothered me. True, all the speeches cited the future as being scary and unpredictable, but everyone seemed stalwart in their beliefs that the future is conquerable. And furthermore, one can only assume these preceding class presidents were correct, as none of them have ever returned too many to recant their original statements. So, therefore, I decided the purpose of my speech would be to attempt to understand what lesson high school teaches us to enable such confidence in our preparation for the future. Now, Mark Twain once said, "I've never let my school interfere with my education." Let's face it, in 5 years, when we return to our first class reunion, we will have long forgotten many of the specifics of our high school academics. Looking back, I already forgot most of the math. The actual schooling, as Mark Twain describes, is not the superlative element of graduating high school. In regards to academia, people will probably only remember what is relevant to their own respective career paths. The writers may encase verses of 19th century poetry into their memories, whereas the future pharmacists will recall specific properties of the period, the elements on the periodic table. So then, the million-dollar question is, why was all of our schooling important, and how will it prepare us for the future? Well, it turns out the education that Twain valued was not a lesson he was taught in the classroom, but a life lesson he learned through perseverance. One of the most infuriating classes I ever took in high school was Miss Buccio's accelerated pre-calc class. Now, not only was I dreadful at the subject, and trust me, I was, I didn't understand why the class was relevant to me. I wanted to be an artist. But with hindsight, I now realize that Miss Buccio's class was one of the most important classes I took in high school. People get caught up in the fact that high school supposedly teaches you how to succeed, and resultantly overlook the equally important lesson that high school teaches you how to fail. Now, I wasn't naturally gifted at pre-calc, but I went to extra help after school. I never gave up, and in the end, I am here today to tell the tale. My stubbornness prove stronger than any numerically based ineptitude. And that is what is truly important. I'm sure everyone wearing a cap and gown today has had that one class they've had to fight to get through. But in the end, we are all here. We all survived. None of us let our weaknesses keep us from being here today. Sure, high school told us we can succeed at what we're good at, but it also taught us how to overcome the failures of what we aren't good at. High school made us fighters. So, with this realization, the quest of my speech is completed. High school taught us how to succeed and how to fail. If a man knows how to do both of these things, he is truly invulnerable. Today, I stand in front of you and declare quite confidently that high school has prepared us for the future. In the words of Lenny Bruce, I won't say ours is a tough school. We had our own issues. We used to write essays like, what I'm gonna be when I grow up. The cold, plain truth is that many of us do not know what we want to be when we grow up. Somewhere down the road, most of us will end up switching majors or readjusting career paths. There is even a strong possibility that at some point we will fail. But if there is one thing high school has taught us, it is that the occasional failure does not thwart us from reaching our goals. Rather, failure makes us stronger, as when one fails, one only becomes more determined to succeed. In conclusion, we may not know what we are supposed to do or how we are supposed to do it, but by receiving our diplomas today, we leave Medway High School with the knowledge that we can and will triumph over whatever destiny awaits us. Thank you. Now at this point, I'd like to call up my fellow class officers, Angela Price and Holly Niemczyk, for the dedication of our class gift.